Hey folks, for today's video we've got something a little special. This is not a recording of one of the streams I've done, which means it's going to have a lot less talking to chat. It is instead a recording of my play live in the Neon Dynasty Set Championship. So I wanted to try out what would happen if I actively recorded the games as I was doing them and talked through my lines like normal. Half because I kind of feel like I just typically play better when I do that, and half because I kind of wanted to see if that'd be interesting to folks. It might be that after the fact I go ahead and record commentary over the top of this, or stream this doing commentary over it. I don't know. Not sure. But to give a quick intro to this video, the two decks that I am playing in this set championship are Jeskai Hinata in Alchemy and Mardu Auras in Historic. The Hinata list that we worked on is pretty close to some of the last iterations of Hinata that I worked on the stream. The biggest difference being that I kind of discovered Syncopate just fixes almost all of the deck's problems. It's extremely efficient with Hinata, it's useful against every deck, and it gives the deck a crucial mix of more interaction on two that it desperately needs, in that it is a control deck that kind of has to not get too pressured on the first couple of turns. When it goes to try to either set up Windfall or Hinata on turn 4, you kind of just need to have your board under control enough that you can afford to pseudo take a turn off to do either of those things. But beyond that, it kind of just does Galvanic Iteration control things when it's not doing the Hinata Magma Opus game plan, and plays rather a lot like the Galvanic extra turn decks of yore. The sideboard is a mix of things like Disdainful Stroke for Hinata mirrors, Annul for surprisingly a lot of matchups. Obviously very useful against runes directly, where it, even on the draw, can counter the 2-drop Mana Dork, but can also hit Showdown of the Scalds, that's typically a problem. Test of Talents for Galvanic Iteration mirrors. I'm getting ahead of myself. But Annul is actually also useful, it turns out, against a lot of the decks playing Sanguine Brushstroke and, what's it called? Saga of the Mirror Breaker, the 3-mana Kiki-Jiki saga that turns out is everywhere. It's just a really, really good card. I don't know if it got the most hype before this event, but I sort of had a feeling that it was going to be pretty popular based on the number of accounts on the Mythic Ladder I saw using their testing accounts for this event, playing all kinds of variations of that card. But anyway, moving on. Abrade, I knew that I wanted more cheap interaction against runes that wasn't providing them the card advantage in the form of Fateful Absence. And it also just turns out that Abrade blowing up artifacts is really useful against various Oni cult decks, so that kind of filled that role. Suspicious Stowaway feels like the best option for a sideboard mirror breaker for Hinata matches. I was under the impression that most Hinata decks would not bring Spikefield Hazard or Showdown of the... Alright, I don't remember. The 2-mana X red modal double-faced card land that deals damage to multiple targets. Mostly because I don't think your mana base can support that in Hinata, unless you decide to go only 2 colors, and I didn't think that, in my experience, you could... Well, 2 colors with a splash. I didn't think you could go blue-red Hinata, playing white only for Hinata, because your removal just didn't cut it. Fateful Absence felt necessary to make the deck function to me. Now, it's not actually what other players went with. They did play Spikefield Hazard, and the other spell whose name escapes me at the moment because my brain is fried, but... yeah, I still think that's, actively kind of just wrong, but... Suspicious Stowaway, I knew if the opponents didn't bring Spikefield Hazard, was going to be the best card for the mirror, because it's just super hard to remove and sometimes wins game on its own. Divine Purge. I originally didn't think the mana base for this deck could support Divine Purge, and I don't think that it's necessarily worth it in the main deck, but it turns out that it's just, even on turn 5 and 6, so useful against the various Sanguine Brushstroke decks, especially the Onicult versions, that it just felt super worth having in the sideboard. And there's a lot of games against runes where you can just like play it on turn 6 or something, and it's just totally fine. A Behold the Multiverse for the mirror matches, or, well, any controlling mirror, sort of. And then the rest of the board is just Divide by Zero targets. And it turns out Divide by Zero is still basically the kind of card this deck wants. The combination of a counterspell when you're trying to end the game with a combo that also synergizes with Hinata and is interactive disruption early game is just, it's still good. The nerf isn't very significant. Leer obviously made Divide by Zero better, and the nerf to Leer means that plan isn't available, but until such time as they give us a better removal spell than Divide by Zero, it kind of just fits for curve purposes. And then, in Historic, we have a deck that is pretty much almost entirely not my creation at all. I gave, like, some input on the sideboard plan, and not even really the cards that are in the sideboard. This is Mardu Auras, which is basically just a deck that functions around Core Spirit Dancers, SRAM, and Light Paws, as a bunch of different creatures that all have synergies with casting auras. In a nutshell, you cast auras and you get to draw cards, and you get to put a ton of power onto the board and draw a ton of cards for very low amounts of mana. You get to have some especially explosive openings because of Mox Amber, and you get access to a lot of really resilient creatures because you can so reliably tutor for Ghost Form with Light Paws or draw into it with your Spirit Dancers. Like, the nut draw with the deck most of the time is with Mox Amber, you can just turn to a Light Paws, play any of your 1-mana white auras, and immediately go fetch a Ghost Form off of it, which is quite excellent. But beyond that, you just get to play an extremely disruptive game plan with access to all of the hand hate here, and then sideboard into largely Esper Sentinels against control decks and Phoenixes, where you just need to tax them a little more and have more threats than they can find answers. But it also plays Heliod's Punishment for some random creature decks in the mirror, Fatal Push mostly for the mirror. There's not a lot of other decks where you actively want more removal in the form of cutting auras. Usually it's better to just be very linear, proactive, and non-interactive, unless you're like really playing against something that's a combo deck. Inquisition of Kozilek tends to come in pretty often. It just differs what you're cutting it for. And Tocatli Honor Guard is mostly useful against various creature-based combo or aggro decks. Humans tends to get pretty hurt by Honor Guard. Most of their removal is ETB-based. And Heliod Life Gain Company also gets shut off pretty hard by Honor Guard. I'm not really going to be able to explain super adequately how this deck works in practice, so I think you're just going to have to get the idea from the games if you haven't seen this deck played before. So with that, I guess we're just going to immediately jump into round 1. Alright, we're going to see how into this I can get. I'm trying to actually record these live and talk my lines out loud as a form of, like, sort of understanding what I'm doing. It's going to take me a little bit to get into this and wake up. Okay, so for round 1, I'm playing the 75 card mirror against my teammate. Knowing that, I don't want to mulligan. Galvanic Iterations aren't bad. I'm on the draw. Wandering Emperor is one of the nicer cards you can have in this mirror. I think I'm supposed to keep over that. Mostly I just don't want to go down on cards. 3 lands is fine. It's not ideal, but it's fine. Okay, 4th land is great. 2nd white source for Wandering Emperor is good. Although having both of our white sources not be dual lands means that our mana base for Galvanic Iteration here is going to be very awkward. We're going to be ludicrously far away from Galvanicing a Windfall, so hopefully we draw Behold the Multiverse, ideally. Pause here is probably either Galvanic or Cathartic Pyre. Cycling Magma Opus. Okay, that's interesting. I could end up being correct if they've got Galvanic in hand plus card advantage. Usually I do not end up cycling Magma Opus very often with this deck, but I also haven't played a ton of control mirrors. Okay, Hinata is pretty strong in the mirror, just because your entire deck is built to take advantage of Hinata with the targeting. Okay, missing land drops, I see. Gotcha. Okay. In that case, I'll represent Wandering Emperor, but I don't actually want to play it into Divide by Zero. And I don't want to try to jam Hinata either. Cathartic Pyre, discard 2. Could still have Syncopate up. If I play Wandering Emperor here and get Syncopated, though, it's a 2-for-1. The downside being if a red source gets hit, they can Sorcery Speed Windfall. I think that's worth it to me, because if they Sorcery Speed Windfall, I'm very likely to, with untapped land, be able to play Hinata next turn anyway. Jwari Disruption is also an option here, but either way, I'm getting a relevant counterspell out of their hand and getting rid of that treasure. I think that's worth it to me. Okay. White comes in tapped. Okay, we are actually approaching an awkward spot, because I can't actually jam Hinata into Divide by Zero here. But we are ahead on land drops. Not having any card advantage in hand is still awkward, but we drew into enough red sources now that I can Galvanic and Windfall later on.
Round timer started.
And we're still making land drops. That's good. Emperor. That's going to be annoying. I could Galvanic Disruption this. Is that correct? I could Fateful Absence it. That's going to be harder to handle. I believe I'm supposed to Galvanic Disruption this. Especially because I already have a duplicate Galvanic. I just don't have good answers to multiple 2/2s right now. And I don't know that Jwari Disruption is likely to scale in use for this. This gives them an opportunity to play Hinata. Okay. With 2 mana... Okay, Unexpected Windfall's a pretty fascinating draw. 2 mana means they can have Divide by Zero. I think I'm supposed to be okay with that, though. So I think I start with Hinata. Okay, so Syncopate costs normal, Fateful Absence costs normal. Do I care more about this on blue or red? I care more about it on red. So now I can Fateful Absence the Hinata while still playing around Syncopate and Jwari Disruption. They can crack this clue here at end of turn, but with Hinata in play, most of their stuff is very expensive. You can Magma Opus for 10 mana to kill Hinata, but not less than that. Okay, we should be in pretty good position here with the Galvanic Windfall next turn, assuming our Hinata stays in play. And if they remove Hinata here at sorcery speed before we untap, then I don't see any way for them to do that without giving us access to resolving Windfall. Now we do get to resolve Windfall. Unexpected Conversion is a decent amount of perhaps meaningful cards, but only if Hinata actually gets removed. No getting rid of anything with Unexpected Conversion. Interesting. So no Jwari Disruptions in hand is what that means. Okay, do I want to use the Galvanic from hand? Probably not. I think I just Galvanic Windfall here at sorcery speed where I'm guaranteed to resolve both. Fight for card advantage. Try to find something to protect Hinata. Okay, land's not helpful. Land's also not helpful, but Unexpected Windfall helpful. Forsaken Crossroads, we'll go with blue here. Scry, Magma Opus plus Galvanic, seems great. Okay. Should have all the tools we need to be just massively ahead here. I guess if they play Hinata and then kill our Hinata, it's like, nah, I just don't think they have enough mana to do anything meaningful with that. Because 8, 10... Yeah, I can actually still Galvanic Magma Opus to kill Hinata with Hinata in play. I just have enough mana to do that. Okay. Galvanic Windfall of their own is one of the stronger things that they could do here, I think. Yeah, okay. Although that said, I still get to Galvanic Magma Opus. Actually, can I do that for lethal? No, only if they tap out quite a bit. Yeah, okay. Fateful Absence on Hinata. Yep. Let's see. What do I want to do here? I'm definitely still ahead. 3, 6, 8, 12. I can try to triple Opus face here and just really restrict what they have to work with. I could also try to triple Opus on their upkeep and tap down a bunch of mana. That's probably what I'm supposed to do. Technically that's like slightly risky, but there's no test of talents in game 1. And I don't have to worry about my Hinata getting killed in response because I'm not actually, like, concerned about cost reduction for Magma Opus after the Galvanics. There's a lot of mana here for, especially with Galvanic Iteration available, to Galvanic divide by 0 my Opus copies. But I think if one Opus copy resolves, I'm still okay. Oh, I miscounted my treasure as an extra mana. Alright, I was probably supposed to sorcery speed this then. I didn't realize I was letting Jwari Disruption actually be relevant here. It's weird to be targeting these treasures as a thing to tap down, but the mana that is encouraged to be spent in the upkeep is whatever mana I'm targeting with Magma Opuses. Meaning that I'm encouraging my opponent to go down on mana overall by tapping these treasures this turn, or else they just have to prioritize spending mana and potentially tapping out. I do still have all the Storm Giants, even if every single one of these Magma Opuses gets countered. Okay. This reads to me like digging, then. Because you would probably wait to have this first Galvanic trigger resolve before Galvanicing for a counterspell. Ooh. Alright. Early morning misplays. Although, they might have actually read the clue token as a treasure, just like I did. But yeah, this is going to work, unfortunately. The Galvanic triggers haven't resolved, so they're not technically legal targets yet. So we both made the exact same mistake on the clue token, I think. Okay, and now I do want to target these treasures. Use one treasure. And at this point, I think I still want to target the treasures. Okay, cool. 1/4/4 resolving technically was all we needed. Unfortunately, none of them would have resolved if that had worked out correctly, but I think we still would have been favored even in that scenario with how low on resources our opponent would have been with us having Hall at that point. can put the opponent to 1 with Divide by 0 up. Divide by 0 not the most useful in a spot where our opponent has this much mana, but can still be moderately useful against... Okay, Hinata's fine. I can just ignore that. I could Fateful Absence Hinata here. Is it better for them to have a clue for me than to have a Hinata? Probably. Probably. If they have to crack the clue, that makes it a lot harder for them to have, like... I guess they can still have Fateful Absence... Oh, no, because the Hall of the Storm Giants has Ward. So being able to attack with Hall of the Storm Giants plus Divide by 0 something is really impactful because we're double taxing the Ward, and they will not have the mana to do that. But they would if Hinata was discounting it. So this is actually just completely correct to do. Okay... Well, that's awkward. We do still get to force the chump block with a 4/4, but I actively
Announcement received.
Okay, just a note from the admins. It's not relevant here. It's a lot of mana to kill this 4/4. I think I'm better off just triple windfalling. Double Galvanic, triple windfall. I guess I'm technically resolving 3 Galvanics that way. Boop, 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 boop. One resolves, we get a Syncopate. It's decent. Another resolves, we get a Windfall. That's decent. Okay, well, that's not technically stellar. But we're going to untap with a lot of mana to work with. The Wandering Emperor is already down on both sides. Going to get to crack a clue at the end of turn. 4, 8, 3, technically 4 mana available after a Magma Opus if they make this land drop. So I can actually syncopate a Magma Opus even after cracking a clue, now that they've played double Galvanic. Okay. I should actually be able to use every single one of my counter spells here, right? 3, 2, 3. Not entirely. Okay. Alright, let's divide 1 Windfall. I'm confident that's worth it. I think I'm probably supposed to take Mascot Exhibition. It is also probably worth it for me to syncopate one of these. I'll have to do it for 3. I could do it for 2 to tap them out, and then Jwari Disruption something so they only have 2 mana. That's probably just not correct, though, especially because it costs me more treasures. Okay, opponent gets to draw 2. Galvanic Windfall is a heck of a drug. Okay, Fateful Absence. That should be lethal with the opponent only having 5 mana. So we get to Fatefully Absent the Elemental token. I guess they could have counterspells to fight over the Fatefully Absent, but I think I just have enough to win a fight over the Fatefully Absent and still animate Hall of the Storm Giants. Now it should take them 5 mana to kill Hall here, and then Jwari Disruption is lethal, which is what you love to see on turn 30 of a control mirror. This was really scrappy, considering I got off to such a favored start. Alright. Game 1. So, I want Stowaway, Test, Disdainful, Behold the Multiverse, Abrades. I want fewer Fateful Absences. I want fewer Hinatas and fewer Magma Opuses. I don't want Sorcery Speed anything if I can help it. I have to keep some number of answers to Stowaway because they kind of just take over the game, but if my opponent's only bringing in 2 of them, I don't think I can justify 3 2-mana removal spells, 4 Stowaway. They're on the play, which means Syncopate isn't an answer to Stowaway. Stowaway on the play is just kind of absolutely brutal no matter what. I can't really avoid that. I don't think I want to cut more than one Hinata or Magma Opus. Maybe I do on the draw. It's tough to figure out how easy it is to resolve Hinata. It's like ludicrously good to have Hinata in play, but so difficult to resolve Hinata against Disdainful Stroke and Divide by Zero. I think I have to justify trimming more then. Part of me wonders if I'm just supposed to play 4 Fateful Absences instead of the Cathartic Pyres and the Abrades. It's like the world's worst answer to turn 2 Stowaway, because giving a clue token kind of sucks. But having more answers to haul and Hinata might just be super necessary. It's really unexciting, but probably correct. Yeah. I think part of my strategy here sort of has to be hope they don't draw Stowaway. 2 Stowaways is so hard to play around with cards that don't do anything against any other cards in the deck besides Stowaway. Opponent snapped Cap 7, and I have a hand that doesn't deal with Stowaway and also doesn't deal with anything. It's very hard to mulligan a hand that just, like, has lands and spells, but so few of these spells are actually meaningful early on. I think I'm supposed to mulligan this. It's the same hand, but worse. Okay, I can't go to 5, unfortunately. Tis a bad start. Silundi Vision doesn't help because I'm on the draw, unfortunately. So we just gotta play that. Whoop. A 2-drop you can play at sorcery speed that stops the Stowaway from transforming is at least still useful. Yeah, and there's Fateful Absence, but I didn't have a white source. Ouchies, ouchies, ouchies. Okay, so Stowaway transforms. I'm in huge trouble. They can kind of just sit back and protect this and probably run away with the game at this point. Alright, we're going to cycle Magma Opus because I'm in desperate need of mana advantage. It's the only axis on which I could possibly hope to compete right now. More Fateful Absences. Would have been... Ironically, actually, if I had brought in the red removal, we would be okay right now. Lamentably, not the case. A pause indicates either Fateful Absence or Divide by Zero, or I suppose red removal is possible too. I could technically just cast a Windfall at their end of turn here, if they miss this land drop, if I had a white source, but... Or if they play this land tapped, actually, also works. So if I had a white source, I could Windfall, get it countered, play my land, or, well, play something, and then Fateful Absent the Werewolf. And only be massively far behind, instead of, like, irreparably far behind. Okay. Yep. I'm definitely in trouble. Still can't really do anything. I guess I mostly just have to draw an untapped land here. Galvanic Windfall is like the only way I'm getting back into this, I think. At least my opponent's discarding a hand size. There's an upper limit on the amount of advantage they can have. No, that's a stowaway. That's not useful in this spot. Okay, well, I think we gotta play that, which at least baits a removal spell. I get a little bit of context about how they sideboarded. depending on how they remove this. Also, we're missing the land drop, which is awful. They give us no information, only tell us that they have divide by 0, which we kind of assumed. Sciences implies that their hand is low on lands, which is sort of horrifying, because that means it's action. What are these on? Both red? Okay. We are approaching the point at which I think I'm about 2% to win this game. Land drop. It makes me sad. Having to go to discard to hand size here anyway kind of hurts, but it sort of makes it... I assume most of the time you discard environmental sciences here, since even if you cast it, you're still discarding a hand size. Yeah. Well, Behold the Multiverse is like a cute card. How on earth do I avoid dying here? I'm missing this land drop again, which makes me kind of think that I'm supposed to take like an obscene Hail Mary at this point. Because like, I just can't win this game against any interaction. And the only thing I can actually beat is no interaction. So I think I'm just supposed to play the Windfall at sorcery speed and accept my death to any piece of interaction. I wonder what the chances are that the opponent has no ability to counter or bounce Unexpected Windfall. Or, like, play Galvanic card advantage. Okay, Windfall in response. That's still bad for me. What do they discard to Windfall? Land. Test of Talents! Okay, you get to look at how I sideboard it, but I don't think that'll surprise him too much, other than maybe the lack of red removal. I can probably concede at this point, actually. In the interest of time and mental efficiency, I don't think I'm capable of winning this at, like, any point anymore. Okay, so now we're on the play. Does that mean I want more Hinatas? I would need to figure something else to cut. There is nothing I am willing to cut, so no. 2 Hinatas it is. Alright. Let's have a beautiful turn 2 Stowaway, shall we? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful turn 2 Stowaway. Okay, we take the play. Oh. This is like such a bad hand because it doesn't have an untapped land that I would just be so excited to play if it had an untapped land. I think I gotta keep... I can't really afford to throw away hands that are decent in a card advantage based mirror. We start with Forsaken Crossroads, trying to scry into an untapped land. Forsaken Crossroads is not an untapped land. Okay, that's action. Second red source or second white source? Second red source more important. For telling Behold the Multiverse when I have the first Galvanic Iteration is really potent. But I think I'm supposed to play around the Stowaway. Okay. I think I can foretell the Behold the Multiverse this turn. Holding up Jwari Disruption isn't actually going to do anything anyway, even though I might still be able to scare them out of playing a Stowaway. But I think setting up Galvanic Behold is too important eventually. Oh, I needed to play the Jwari Disruption as a land that turn. I hope that doesn't cost me. I'm so bad at reading mana bases with the Forsaken Crossroads. Okay. So So we didn't draw blue source, so I still just... Well, actually, I could play Showdown Pass for Tell the other Behold the Multiverse, and then Behold the Multiverse at the end of their turn. Or I guess I actually just hold up Jwari Disruption. I don't think I'm supposed to. I think I need to get this second blue source down. And then we gotta hold up Jwari Disruption for Windfall at this point. I'm also representing Divide by Zero, so they couldn't just cycle Magma Opus and then Windfall me. Okay. Now's the tough part, where if I Galvanic Behold on their turn, they could Windfall in response, which kind of distinctly puts them ahead of me. And I don't know that I have enough lands to justify doing nothing for the time being. Not having any counter spells at all makes me think that I have to go for this. They could Test of Talents me here, that'd be annoying. Yeah, Test of Talents here makes this game hard. Not unwinnable, but it's so hard to win if you don't have Galvanics. I would say I'm pretty firmly behind at this point. But I don't think I had the freedom to do nothing there, because I didn't have an actual counterspell in hand. Now we're hoping we dodged or Disdainful Stroke is the counterspell that's relevant here. Yeah. Alright. Okay. Windfall's good. Getting rid of Jwari Disruption when it's my land drop hurts. I think I'm supposed to get rid of Fateful Absence then. So we get some mana advantage. I can't realistically handle Hinata anyway. I think we just foretell this Behold, which they kind of already know about. They know about the Jwari Disruption. In a tough spot. No doubt of that. The one axis we have some advantage on right now is mana. They have mostly perfect information. There's one unknown card that could theoretically be a Disdainful Stroke or a Test of Talents. No third red source means they can't Galvanic Windfall here, which apparently was extremely lucky for me because I would have just lost the game otherwise. Okay, so they resolve one Windfall, go back to mana parity, but card advantage for them. Only small amounts of card advantage, though, I suppose. It's a little bit of a mercy for me. I can't really afford to foretell Behold here. I need to represent Behold and Windfall. Galvanic in the graveyard makes my life hard. Everything makes my life hard. Okay. I think I just have to Behold here. I'm too far behind on resources not to take risks. Test and Disdainful Stroke are down, which means they can have 4 Divide by Zeros, some number of Syncopates. 1 Disdainful Stroke is the only trivial counter. Okay, well, they're out of Disdainful Strokes, I guess. Yowzas. Okay, guess I'm Beholding in response. I could technically hit a Test of Talents for Disdainful Stroke here, which is, like, entirely massively unexciting, but would probably be something I'm willing to do in this spot. I sort of imagine this Behold gets hit by a Divide by Zero, but maybe I'm just being pessimistic. Oh, no. That is exactly what happened. Okay. Well, got the opponent down to 3 cards. If I play Behold, I can potentially hit a land drop and something to discard to Windfall. Or I can just Foretell Behold and play Stowaway. Let's find out what happens if I just play Stowaway. Missing this land drop is gonna suck, but I think that's what I'm supposed to do. I don't want to actually put cards in hand when they have Teachings of the Archaic. I'll probably get hit by a Fatefully Absent here, maybe by a red removal spell. I do get to crack the clue if that happens. Stowaway is a lot weaker at this point in the game, just because it's harder to flip it to Night anyway. Okay. This is interesting because now I can actually Windfall discarding the Stowaway. I still can't make the land drop, but I net some treasures and actually resolve the Windfall and get to convert the Stowaway into something that's likely to be slightly more useful. And there's not a lot of sense in holding the Windfalls at this point because I don't have Galvanics. Okay, lands are in fact not more useful. Painful. Okay, but we have Tests and Disdainful Strokes all gone. 2 Divide by Zeros gone, which leaves our opponent with 2 Divide by Zeros and 3 Syncopates as far as counter magic goes. And Galvanic Iteration to combine with both of those counter spells. Environmental Sciences goes and finds a basic, puts a basic into play, which doesn't help with their card count for Teachings of the Archaic. Oh boy. Alright. Life definitely awkward at the moment. We have a distinct mana advantage. That's an axis that I don't have the resources to take advantage of, but it's an advantage still. Okay, now we need to find things to do things with. Magma Opus and Windfall we will accept. Windfall discarding a land. We don't actually even care too much if this gets hit by Divide by Zero right now, because losing cards that are lands in my hand that aren't actually useful is totally fine. But it does a resolve, which puts us up on cards, which isn't really where we want to be. I guess I can get cute, and depending on if they have a land to play, I can cast Magma Opus in response to Teachings. Okay, so they don't do anything. 4, 8. So they can Galvanic Magma Opus, but I actually just have enough mana that I can win if they do that. I think this is the point where I'm just supposed to start forcing my opponent's last 3 cards to be relevant. I think I'm supposed to go for white sources here to reduce the chance of Wandering Emperor. I'm still not entirely sure when it's correct to tap treasures down with Magma Opus to restrict how your opponent floats mana in response. But I'm going to assume this is one of the situations where I'm supposed to tap this treasure down. Divide by Zero wouldn't actually be horribly inconvenient here, because I can just let it happen. Syncopate for 7 is moderately annoying. Except I actually just get to Disdainful Stroke that and potentially resolve Opus. I actually might just be fine here. Okay, Galvanic. Sure. Card advantage here in response actually would be really bad. But if they Magma Opus here in response, that's actually super, super good for me. Somehow we did actually draw a combination of cards that allowed me to take advantage of this significant mana advantage, even though I was behind on most other axes. And at this point, we've actually kind of managed to convert that into a real advantage. Okay, so with 1 mana... Whose is whose? This is theirs. I guess I'm technically supposed to, like, syncopate the original. I don't think it can ever matter, but... Okay, so we get to resolve our Magma Opus, and then we get to resolve a second Magma Opus if we want to. I don't think that I want to. Should I want to? I'm in sort of a tough spot if Teachings of the Archaic draws too many cards, but I think that I'm just supposed to resolve Magma Opus. I could do this on their upkeep. I'm opening myself up to a counterspell at that point. Yeah, I think that I'm just supposed to resolve this at sorcery speed. Alright, the draws were not helpful. I was hoping for, like, a hard counter of any kind. I probably can't beat another Opus now. Yeah. Hopefully this is just the Teachings. Okay. Whew. That's good news. They get to draw 4. That's bad for me, but at this point, I'm trying to win on the axis of 4/4s. Playing my land was super bad. I was supposed to play around Magma Opus drawing into Hall of Storm Giant if I was going to sorcery speed Magma Opus. Did not think of that adequately. Should I Silundi Vision at the end of turn? Give them an opening to resolve things. They're on 5 mana. Wandering Emperor is probably the single biggest concern I have right now. I think that's enough of a reason not to Silundi Vision. But if they Wandering Emperor in response to Silundi Vision and I find a Magma Opus, of which there's only 1 remaining in my deck... No, we still don't win the game there. Okay, so I can't. Okay, I would like to Silundi Vision. See what that hits. I don't know if that information is actually meaningful. Maybe I should deny my opponent that information. Yeah, I don't know if what Silundi Vision hits changes the context of my decision-making. Although it pressures the opponent to do something before I can hit a counterspell here, which I guess kind of works when I already have a Syncopate. Galvanic. Okay. For 2 mana? Oh, Fatefully Absent on my 4/4s? I think I have to Syncopate one of those. Okay, we get a clue token off that. 5, 6... Magma Opus is tempting, but Magma Opus with information isn't... Yeah, now I wish I'd waited on this Silundi Vision. There's no more Galvanic in hand, but there's no way around the fact that Magma Opus is the toughest card for me to handle right now. I think I have to take Divide, which is bad because that means now I know that the other Magma Opus is on the bottom of my deck. But the opponent doesn't have a huge amount of mana. They can Magma Opus plus Divide by 0, but that doesn't really matter. They don't have enough mana to Syncopate my Divide by 0. What happens if I crack the clue? Do I not have enough mana to pay for a Syncopate then? I have 2 mana after dividing by 0. They can Syncopate for 2, so I would still be fine even if I lose my treasure. but that'd just be worth it at that point. Two, three. Oh, if I crack the clue and they Magma Opus, killing my 4/4, and I divide by 0 back, then they have exactly enough mana to divide by 0. Have they played a land already for the turn? Yes. Okay, so they don't actually have another white source. So I think I can just divide this. I mean, they can syncopate me back here and fight over it, I suppose, which sucks. But I think I just have to divide. They could also have 2 divides, so now they can syncopate. Okay. This would be a good time to have all the Storm Giants in play. Crack the clue, looking for Disdainful Stroke. Exactly. No, divide by 0. 1 mana short of greatness. I could Fatefully Absent my own 4/4 in response here. So you get a clue token and deny the 2 life gain. I don't think them being at 8 is relevant. I think I'm probably just supposed to Fatefully Absent the Wandering Emperor, but I've got enough mana at this point that I don't really need to prioritize doing that now. I can save the treasure. Oh, alright. Not in good spot.
Our swords will cross again.
Not in a good spot. I'm unlikely to be able to beat a Magma Opus at this point. How many Galvanics has my opponent used? 2. 1 remaining. 1 Magma Opus used. So likely to be about 2 remaining. Possibly fewer, possibly more. More lands, not helpful. I can't stop that. Dividing by 0 that for no purpose other than to put Teachings of the Archaic in my hand maybe is correct in that spot. Okay, dividing Windfall is at least slightly more value. I don't know if the value matters though. I could get Mascot Exhibition. Can I afford to? Given the context of knowing that the other Magma Opus is on the bottom of my deck, and that the only other meaningful things that I'm drawing towards are Wandering Emperor, which probably isn't going to be enough here, or Hinata, which probably isn't going to be enough here, or Hall of the Storm Giants, which probably isn't going to be enough here, I think that I'm supposed to just go relatively all in on Mascot Exhibition. Yeah, Hinata's extremely annoying. How about Hall? No, just a land. Okay. Alright, play a land, play around Syncopates, play Mascot Exhibition. Wildly unlikely to win this game. Magma Opus is real bad for me. Okay. Spoma has 2 4/4s. I need to find a way to deal 4 damage and remove all their creatures. Alright, they're hitting critical mass and draw spells. I have no interaction. That is, unfortunately, pretty much gonna be it. It'll be interesting to rewatch this game to see where I made decisions that were incorrect. I'm gonna guess the Sorcery Speed Magma Opus was probably one of them. Alright. Well, still don't know that I can actually win, even with getting to get through for 4 damage here. All the Storm Giants definitely makes things harder. If they have a Magma Opus, that would be pretty inconvenient. Stowaway also hurts. At least it flips back to day. Maybe I can stop it from flipping to night. Magma Opus. This is gonna be tricky to beat. Okay, okay. I don't really have cards in my deck that can get me out of this. That's definitely our core problem here. Maybe if I can, like, find a critical mass of card draw. Another Windfall to convert the other land into a real spell. Or... or 2 lands. Alright. Well, that's not surprising. I knew this was my worst matchup coming in. My MDG Melee chat's just not working, so I hope the abundant doesn't feel too bad that I'm not saying good luck, have fun back to them. Okay, so we are actually playing another Hinata mirror. This opponent has 4 Divide by Zeros, 4 Jwari Disruptions, 2 Behold the Multiverse, 2 Galvanics, 1 Negate in the main. Biggest difference is 3 Smoldering Eggs. I think I'm supposed to keep this on the play. Sideboard includes 2 Disdainful Stroke, 1 Hullbreaker Horror, 1 Behold the Multiverse, 1 Galvanic, 1 Extra Negate, 1 Test of Talents. Okay. I think that should be sort of manageable. Put them against a 5. That's a good start for us. I might have to cycle one of these Magma Opuses. Or I might foretell Behold the Multiverse instead. That works out even better. Opponent has no Syncopates, notably. That is good for us. I'd love if my opponent just played a Smoldering Egg here. They don't. That's a bummer. Okay. Didn't find the 4th land, which makes this awkward. Oh, I was supposed to, in their upkeep, play Behold the Multiverse. Okay. I'm a little slow on the draw here. So this lets them divide by 0 my Behold, unfortunately. That's actually worth it if we manage to hit an untap land, which we wouldn't have done, but the Behold resolves anyway, so we are happy. Wow, that's too many Magma Opuses. Oh no. Legitimately, oh no. Okay. So they instantly let that Behold resolve, which makes me wonder if I'm just supposed to Unexpected Windfall discarding a Magma Opus here. Technically, they could have had Jwari Disruption, so I don't think I'm supposed to. I'd like my opponent to just play Hinata? No. Okay. Alright, we can live with that. At this point, I'm willing to cycle a Magma Opus, I think. I guess I can technically do that next turn, though. Yeah, I can do that next turn. Okay, Syncopate's pretty good. We get our 3rd red source for Unexpected Windfall Galvanic. We get to scry towards another land. Opponent doesn't do anything on our end of turn. Okay, okay. We're definitely pulling pretty far ahead here, which I'm more than happy with. 2 red mana for a Smoldering Egg is fine. What's the best thing I can do here? Probably just end up Fatefully Absenting it. Alright, so there's a pause, indicating our opponent has something they can cast there. Wait, oh, opponent doesn't have any Fatefully Absent. Interesting. Okay, I would like to discard Magma Opus first, because there's the possibility this gets the opponent to either Jwari Disruption or or Divide by 0 the Fatefully Absent, which would actually be good for me because then I could immediately resolve Galvanic Windfall. Alright, land drop's great, means I don't have to sorcery speed this Galvanic Windfall, which means I can pass through to my opponent's end of turn, and if they crack this clue, then I get to Galvanic Windfall. And we do get to do that, which is great. Discarding a second Magma Opus here would be pretty tough, but I do actually want this Syncopate. I might not need the Syncopate. I'm going to go with I don't need the Syncopate and hope to just draw a replacement, but because I do think that I actually need the Magma Opuses. Divide by 0 is a replacement, so we're good to go. This should be more than enough to lock this up, I think. The Wandering Emperor also helps. Unexpected Windfall. I believe I am just supposed to divide by 0 that to deny my opponents a mana development. Hopefully they have a negate here that I get to Jwari Disruption. They don't. I can live with it, I suppose. None of these really matter. I suppose I'll take Teachings. On the off chance they do manage to counter my Magma Opuses, which is the only way I really foresee myself losing from this spot, then the Teachings winds up being helpful. Most of the time I expect the Teachings to not be super terribly useful. Okay, Hinata would be annoying. If I Jwari Disruption it, then I can just kill it with Magma Opus. Alternatively, I can play Wandering Emperor, play Magma Opus. Opponent could have Divide by 0 for the Magma Opus, would be pretty brutal. I would have to spend 10 mana to kill the Hinata, and 3 mana Jwari Disruption. I would still succeed, actually. Is that fine? I guess that's probably fine. I can just afford that. Alright, so we're willing to play Wandering Emperor here. We get to make a 2/2. Oh, I actually get to attack with this 2/2 before playing Magma Opus, which actually doesn't make a difference because I still have to hit the entire Hinata with all the damage for Magma Opus or else it costs more. So I'm actually not supposed to do that. Oh wait, technically I can make this cost a little less, right? Target Hinata for all the damage, target Hinata for the tap, and a Stormcarved Coast for the tap. Yeah, okay, so that actually was exactly enough to let the Jwari Disruption happen. Okay, so they have to have Divide by 0 here, and Jwari Disruption answers that. Exactly enough mana to make everything happen. And we actually successfully get the Divide by 0 out of their hand, whereas Jwari Disruptioning the Hinata last turn didn't. It cost us a lot of treasures to do it that way, but I think that's mostly just worth it. How many board wipes do they have in the main deck? Kind of plenty, so I guess we're actually down ticking Wandering Emperor here. And by plenty, I mean none. None is what I meant. Okay, Windfall resolves, but the opponent's low on mana. Cool, lands, okay. Let's Unexpected Conversion, not playing our land drop beforehand. We get to pitch Teachings of the Archaic to this, which is one of the synergies with Unexpected Conversion in the deck. I mean, getting rid of all the Jwari Disruptions would also be cool, but at this point, Jwari Disruption is likely to be slightly more useful than Teachings. Yeah, I do not have any in my deck. That's not surprising. Cathartic Pyre. Okay, that could actually be useful here. Mostly in the sense that it can... let's split this up. They have 3 Fading Hopes, so I imagine I'm not supposed to pump the highest power creature. Four, so I can't Galvanic Magma Opus next turn, or at least not from the graveyard, but we are doing a lot of damage here to pressure the opponent. The treasure tokens mean we're unlikely to get any use out of Jwari Disruption. Okay, well, actually, we are likely to get use out of Jwari Disruption here. Keep the opponent at 1 card in hand. We are just going to double Jwari Disruption this Unexpected Windfall. Okay, so that leaves the opponent with being able to play Magma Opus, probably, to clear out a 4/4? No, just Windfall and card advantage, which normally would be good, but not against this Wandering Emperor board state. Okay. Game 1 we take. Opponent's sideboard includes 2 Disdainful Stroke, 1 Horror, 1 Behold the Multiverse. It's 4 cards, 1 Galvanic is 5, Negate is 6, Test is 7. Coming out includes 3 Fading Hope, 3 Abrades, and something, probably a Hinata. Okay. So I need no red removal, because the opponent isn't playing any stowaways in any number, which means I just get to board in Disdainful Strokes, my own stowaways, Behold, and Test of Talents. Okay, that should be mostly good. We're closer to even afterboard, other than that I have stowaways and Fateful Absence, and their removal is a little weaker, which I think should generally favor me. Smoldering Egg is technically a problem, but Fatefully Absent and Divide by Zero give me some meaningful number of answers to that. Spikefield Hazard as a 3 of does mean that they're a lot less weak to the Seafaring Werewolf. This is almost a keepable hand, because the opponent doesn't actually have any 2-mana threats. They have Smoldering Egg, I suppose, but like that's not an immediate answer threat. I think I can actually keep this in a control mirror. Oh man, we could also just immediately draw Suspicious Stowaway. Not as good on the draw, but still extremely good. Blue, and we get to scry. We do not want more lands. I really value any hand that has Unexpected Windfall. There's so many times where your opponent's just forced to not play around it. Alright, let's go with Stowaway on 2. Jwari Disruption is an answer to this, but waiting until turn 3 to play it and giving the opponent the opportunity to sorcery speed a turn 4 Windfall isn't really acceptable. Okay, more lands isn't great. More lands also isn't great. Opponent Windfalls. Normally you can't really do that, but I might not have an answer. I do have an answer. Test of Talents on Windfalls is worth it to me here. Opponent has Hinata Opus Negate. Okay. That's going to be awkward. Let's take a look at how they sideboarded. They kept in all 4 Opuses, boarded in the Hullbreaker, boarded down to 2 Hinata, kept in the Smoldering Eggs. Okay. No answers to a resolved Hinata, other than Divide by 0. Huh, okay. So our opponent is going to get to just slam Hinata here, but we get to slam a Hinata as well, which isn't negatable. No, I can't play the Forsaken Crossroads because I don't have white mana. Bummer. So that makes our Magma Opus back to normal. In other words, not castable anytime soon. I think in this situation I'm willing to just trade Hinatas, if they offer. If our deck lists were reversed, I couldn't take this risk, because they might have the Emperor off the top deck, but knowing they don't have the Emperor, I do not see anything that punishes me for this. I guess a second Hinata punishes me for this, huh? Although the opponent actually doesn't have a second blue source yet, weirdly enough. Which means they can't Magma Opus plus negate Syncopate. They only have one other Hinata in their deck that I saw, which makes this sort of safe, but yeah. I did not really think about a second Hinata specifically being something that very much punished that. Okay, let's go with a white in case we top deck Emperor next turn. Silundi Vision. I think I'm willing to take that. At the very least, it probably gets Negate out of their hand. They discard the Opus for more blue sources. Okay, so does that mean card draw plus want to protect it with Negate? That makes me not want to play my Silundi Vision until it's in response to something, I think? Maybe. Yeah, I especially can't for as long as they're making land drops, because then I can't even Syncopate a card draw spell. I mean, the Syncopate would get countered by the Negate anyway, but... maybe I just have to, though? I can't really get stuck with the potential of being stuck on mana because of this Silundi Vision forever. Behold the Multiverse is the worst thing that can... well, Galvanic Behold the Multiverse is the worst thing that can happen to me in this spot. Which I think actually means I need to play Silundi Vision before they can play one more land, because I can never beat double Galvanic Silundi Vision. Or double Galvanic Behold the Multiverse. Taking Galvanic Iteration is definitely the strongest individual card here. It makes the largest combination of things into good draws. I think I'm just supposed to play around top deck and card advantage, and taking Galvanic is the way to do that. Oh, hello, Magma Opus is also good. Okay, interesting. Now still, why did the opponent cycle that earlier Magma Opus? Is it just that they weren't expecting to continue top decking nothing but lands for a while? Or did they actually have a plan? It looks like they were just needed more blue sources. 4, 8. Okay, so I could Galvanic Magma Opus just to get 2 counter spells out of them. No, I don't think I'm supposed to blink first. I think I'm just supposed to be willing to draw go. I'm ahead on lands by a pretty wide margin, so I think just draw going while that's the case is good for me until the opponent does something. Like, try to play an egg at sorcery speed. Yeah. Divide by 0 puts them up to 6. I don't want to Fatefully Absent this. I suspect I'm supposed to divide by 0 this egg, and then just get a land drop off of that. If I can force them to fight over this, that's even better. No. Okay. Yeah, so we'll just take Environmental Sciences here, try to not draw the planes that's already in the graveyard, so Environmental Sciences was the worst pick. Should have checked that. Alright, that's fine. We won't beat ourselves up over that misplay too much. There's always the opportunity to find a discard outlet for that Sciences eventually. I'm uncertain whether I want to play stuff in response to this Smoldering Egg so that it doesn't get counters on it, or if I'm supposed to try to kill it. I think the Fatefully Absent means that I don't bother trying to kill it, because I have answers to it later on anyway. So let's go with Galvanic and see if the opponent has Test of Talents. They do not. Alright, then we get to just Magma Opus their face in response, get rid of blue source and blue source, and get rid of treasure and blue source. Galvanic, sure. Opponent has to wait for this Galvanic to resolve. Don't negate it now, opponent, don't negate it now. Okay, there we go. Alright, going at opponent's face, going at opponent's, this doesn't really matter. Treasure and land. Alright, still need to draw card advantage. Unexpected Windfall or Behold the Multiverse probably wins. If we can find them. All the Storm Giants isn't bad. I think I want to Fatefully Absent on my opponent's upkeep so that they can't crack the clue with the mana here at the end of turn. I don't believe the opponent has the capacity to punish me with the extra mana up here, given that I have Syncopate and Divide, or Disdainful Stroke. But we're definitely actually falling behind again now, because we're flooding out a little bit and didn't find real card advantage. There's 6 mana to work with. If I fire up Hall, Hall's a 3-turn clock. Opponent has little in the way of answers for Hall. The fact that they have the Galvanic means that I might just have to do nothing here for a while. I think I'm actually back to unfavored now. I wonder if I wasn't supposed to go for the Opus when I did because it was bad against Galvanic? 3 mana. Celestis. Loots. Okay. That actually will be sort of difficult for me to handle. More Galvanics. Okay. Well, it gives me access to a decent number of counter spells. The Syncopate's sort of losing its luster. But we're not in a bad shape once we successfully find a card advantage spell. Jwari Disruption is just worse than land drops currently. Okay, there's a card advantage spell that we get to do things with. Hullbreaker Horror, with the opponent having 6 mana remaining. Having used 1 negate. Their remaining counterspells include Test of Talents and 1 other negate. Okay, let's start with Disdainful Stroke, see what happens. I'm okay if this gets tested or negated, because I have the Syncopate as well. Oh, cute. Okay. Well then, opponent, what happens if I Galvanic in response? And also Galvanic in response. I could do another Galvanic in response. I don't think that's
Round timer
correct.
started.
Round timer only just started? Oh no, it just reconnected. Okay. And then, if I were to cast 3 Windfalls, cool. I think I'd like to get use out of this Syncopate. Which I think means just syncopating for 4 on the horror. The alternative is I could divide my Disdainful Stroke as well. It's probably not as good. Alright. I would like to remove Horror then. Okay, Horror is gone. Divide by 0 fizzles. Disdainful Stroke could be put back in my hand, but that is probably not correct. Pass the turn. Opponent gets to loot. So that is 2 eggs, both Hinatas and the Horror gone, which means they have their Mascot Exhibition, some number of opuses. They had 4. They've used 1. Okay. Did they discard Galvanic? Wow. Okay. Alright, Wandering Emperor should be pretty strong. They discarded another egg. That's actually pretty surprising. Okay, Behold the Multiverse and Windfall are great to have with Galvanic. Wandering Emperor is good to have for winning the game. Okay, Galvanic, sure. I can divide by 0 copies of whatever they try to play here. Oh, it's just Opus. Okay. I suspect... Do they have a haul? They don't. Okay, so I suspect I'm supposed to Behold the Multiverse in response, looking for an actual counterspell to counter both of these. I'd prefer not to divide by 0 them. Oh wow, both those cards are good though. I think 1 Windfall's enough here in hand. Oh cool, more Magma Opuses. Okay, so then what we're going to do in this spot is divide the copy. And then copy Magma Opus to kill their token. Test of Talents. Okay. On my divides. That should still work, although I'm giving them more card draw than I would have preferred. We still get to resolve a copied Magma Opus to kill both of their tokens, and we already tapped down the lands that they're targeting. There's not much they can do with 1 mana here. I do, in a sense, have to worry about getting burned out. Let's see, that's 2 Magma Opuses, 2 remaining. 1 Galvanic in the graveyard, 1 in exile. Leaves them with 1 more Galvanic in deck. Yeah, I could actually just die here. If they find the other Galvanic and one of the 2 remaining Magma Opuses, I am dead. Ouch. Well, hopefully that's just card draw. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, they shouldn't have enough mana to copy the other Magma Opus here. At least not enough times for it to be lethal. Okay. Alright, alright, alright. Lucked out there. I believe. I don't want to jinx this. Admittedly, only 1 Syncopate is sort of awkward. How much in the way of counterspells do I have left? I have used 1 Syncopate, 1 Disdainful Stroke, 1 Test of Talents, and all my divides are gone, which means I have 1 Disdainful Stroke remaining. Oh wow, they drew into it. I got so lucky there. Okay, that leaves them with 1 Magma Opus remaining. Time on the clock I need to be mindful of, because I can still technically lose this. They know about the Wandering Emperor, which means that I just pass. No. I Sorcery Speed Windfall to stop it from turning tonight. Have to be mindful about cards drawn. I could lose by decking, which means I actually need to win. In light of that, I'm actually going to resolve the Wandering Emperor here, because I now have Disdainful Stroke and Syncopate. And just uptick the Wandering Emperor on the 4/4.
I will protect my people. Remember your training.
They don't have any windfalls, so their ability to get massively ahead on mana is limited. Hinata. How many opuses do they have left? 1 opus remaining. With 2 Galvanics, I don't actually think I can afford to use the Disdainful Stroke on this. Do I know the bottom card of my deck at all? Maybe. I technically do, because we hit with that Silundi Vision earlier, huh? So I'm probably supposed to try to dig to find Fateful Absence. Can I afford to? 4, 8, 3. I don't have Galvanic. Do I have... How many Galvanics do I have left in the deck? 1. Okay. I think this is worth beholding then. Don't want those two. Happier with them at the bottom of my deck. Didn't want lands either. Okay. Upkeep. What you got for me, opponent? Divide by 0 on the creature with flash. Sure. This does let them get Mascot Exhibition, which they get to attempt to copy, which will be annoying. Let it flip to Night. They choose whether or not to loot. Three, 6. Sure. 1 Galvanic. They're only going to copy Mascot Exhibition twice? Okay, interesting. In response, we're going to try to dig for more cards. Divide by 0 would be useful here. Okay, in response, we Fatefully Absence Hinata and see what they have to say about that. I would like my spells to cost less and theirs to cost more here for the remainder of this period of interaction. 9 cards remaining. One of them is Galvanic. We know the bottom 2. Okay. Using up this Disdainful Stroke is risky, but do I have to? Probably. Okay, we Disdainful Stroke the Mascot Exhibition, which makes us very vulnerable to copied Magma Opus in the future, but this is their final Galvanic and their final Opus. 3, 6, 7, 8. No, only 7, because one of those is actually a clue. I'm okay if they resolve Mascot Exhibition by paying for this Syncopate, so I don't need to actually do it for more than this. I just want all of their mana gone, and then I can Jwari Disruption it. Sure. Okay, that's fine. That's how many Disdainful Strokes. 1. So they could have another. They probably have another. Syncopate's not a bad draw. I need to Behold because I need to find that other Galvanic. There's the other Galvanic. This puts me 2 cards in the library after the Magma Opus' resolve. I'll never be able to play another... Oh, and that's assuming that I only resolve 2 Magma Opuses, not 3. Is that fine? That's probably fine. I think that's fine. I think that's fine. I should have tapped down the other two creatures. I don't actually want them chump blocking here. Wait, am I actually probably okay with this Magma Opus being countered? I don't actually need to fight over that. I'm going to attack with this 5/5. They know about the Wandering Emperor, so they don't want to block with anything that actually kills it. I can play Hinata to tax more. That makes it hard for them to meaningfully Galvanic plus Magma Opus. They still can, but it's difficult. And I can Fatefully Absent their creatures in response, or I don't think I have enough mana to actually counter even after. Let's see, 3, 9, 3, 5. 5 mana after they Galvanic Magma Opus. I can Syncopate for 4, so no. But I can Fatefully Absent the 2 tokens that are in play. Presumably they would try to push for lethal. The Hinata. Okay, I would like to remove the 4/4 in response then. Is this fine? It's probably fine. They can no longer lethal with me with Magma Opus, even if they have a counterspell for Fatefully Absent. This leaves them with 2 mana, so I can Syncopate to tap them out. Is that meaningful? I don't think so. I do have to Fatefully Absent the 3/2 though, otherwise I'm dead to Spike Field, and there is 1 Spike Field remaining in their deck. So maybe I was supposed to Fatefully Absent before this. 2... yeah, okay. So I do actually have to do this. Oh no, they targeted the creature! I didn't have to do this. Well, I was still going to take extra damage though. Okay, so they get to kill 1 creature here. I should be able to win here, but it's a clock. It's a question of whether I can clock them before my deck dries up, that is to say. Known cards remaining aren't relevant. They double block here. We see if we can resolve the Emperor. I presume we can. 1 remaining treasure. That is worth using the Syncopate on. Take to give that first strike.
Strike fast and strike hard.
Do damage to the opponent. Play Hinata. Alright. With no Magma Opuses remaining. Opponent's options are extremely limited for how they deal with this. It's just a question of if we can assemble lethal in time. Opponent has 1 Hall of the Storm Giants. They have not yet played. I don't actually have an answer to that. But at this point, it would only invalidate the 4/4 because my Hall is bigger anyway. Yeah, there's the Hall. I don't believe they have any source of damage at this point that threatens me. Oh, the other Spike Field already got used, actually. Or discarded at some point, I suppose, is more likely. This would be a good point to be able to remember what was in my opponent's deck when we searched it earlier. Have they used both Hinatas? Oh, 3 Hinatas. Oh, okay. I miscounted earlier, I suppose. Oh, maybe I didn't count one that was already in their hand. Oh, no, the one we had traded earlier in the game. Right. Shatter Skull Smashing was also in their deck. Sure, yeah, that actually is true, isn't it? Two turns remaining beyond this. If the opponent can't somehow make a chump blocker, and I don't recall if they can, then we should be able to get there, maybe? I don't actually know how the math on this works. All the Storm Giants is... Celestis gaining life is a problem. So I need to not let that happen. I have nothing meaningful to cast with Galvanic later anyway. This is mostly just going to come down to me trying to remember what's in my opponent's deck. Or, well, I can't even play around anything that's in their deck, so it's not even a question of me wondering what's in their deck. It's a question of me just hoping that what's in their deck doesn't interact with us. Teachings of the Archaic counter it to switch back to Night, then activate Celestis. Can you choose not to draw with Celestis? No, it's a May. Okay. So they can just gain 2 life a turn here. 3 life a turn cycle, actually, because I can't play anything on my turn either. Which means they're going up to 16, then up to 17. The Hall of the Storm Giants currently does 16. The math on that sort of favors them. Am I supposed to block to protect the Wandering Emperor? Or am I just supposed to accept 1 attack with Hall, 2nd attack with Hall gets blocked? I might not be able to make this. Yeah, I don't think I can. Which is going to make the next game real tough.
Guards, to me.
Well. Yeah, they just don't attack with a Hall this turn. Yeah, okay. And down on time, I then need to win fast, huh? That's gonna be interesting. Okay, I assume I should play more Hinata then? Less Behold, less Syncopate? Okay, we can give that a shot. This is gonna get weird. Take the play, keep a hand. Red and scry. Land is fine. Blue and pass. They don't play a tap land here, so I can't cycle Magma Opus into Hinata. They do play a land, so cycle Opus into Hinata and kind of hope. I think this is the way I'm supposed to cheese this game with timer this low. Possible they boarded into removal spells. They chose not to play one here. Good enough for me. Alright, 5-turn clock with Hinata. Land protect Hinata, go. think that's worth dividing. Take Teachings, could be useful eventually. Can't let that resolve, willing to use Test on it. Opponent's hand is no non-interactive cards. Silundi Vision can be played. We'll still have Divine Stroke up, provided they're not doing anything that leaves up Jwari Disruption, which costs 3 mana, so that's pretty difficult for them to do. Okay, I think it's safe to Silundi Vision here. Opponent doesn't play removal spells that are instant speed for Hinata. Opponent probably plays Behold in response here. Divide by 0. Okay, yeah, no, my mistake. Fair enough. We get to take Magma Opus. Play Hinata, hold up Disdainful Stroke. Lost time, but finding the Magma Opus was pretty valuable. Okay, attack with Hinata. Go to upkeep. Disdainful Stroke, Behold, go to upkeep, or do it now. Too late. Arena decided for me. Damage, damage, damage. Tap, tap. 2 damage to the opponent. Leave up 2 mana. Play around Jwari Disruption, play around Galvanic Jwari Disruption. Opponent doesn't have triple blue, so they can't triple Galvanic Disruption. Don't have enough mana too because of attacks from Hinata anyway. Okay, currently representing lethal. Opponent gets to play Smoldering Egg to chump block the 4/4 on the ground. We behold... try to find a removal spell. Whew! Alright, 4 minutes is plenty of time to win a control mirror. Alright, this time around we are playing against Naya runes, which means I do not have to play against Hinata. We are on the draw. Which makes this hand a little more awkward. This is still definitely not a hand I can mulligan. Commune with Spirits, okay. That's totally acceptable as a turn 1 play. It's not Generous Visitor. So there's a Naturalist that'll... Okay. Magma Opus is nice. Forsaken Crossroads is gonna go on blue, and the other one's gonna go on white. Just in case we do scry and untap land to the top here. Yeah, we'll just take any 4th land. So we're gonna have to play the other Crossroads on white, untap to hold up Syncopate for 1. Whoa, playing Kami instead of Jukai Naturalist is surprising. Huh, okay. I guess now they get to play Jukai Naturalist with mana up? It works. Or not. They don't want to pump the Kami? They want to play another Kami. Okay. Works for me. What do they have for removal for Hinata? They have 2 Circle of Confinements. Oh, they actually have just straight up no main deck removal because they're not playing the O-Ring. Yowzas. Okay. Cameo safekeeping could actually be a problem here. Alright, that gives us an opportunity to Cameo Transients before our opponent can do anything about it. None of these cards are actually likely to be meaningful. I guess Mascot Exhibition is the most likely of these to have use. I don't foresee this game playing out in a way where any of those cards have an impact.
Timer started.
So Rune of Speed on the Naturalist would be annoying here. Okay. It is the kind of thing that could hypothetically be a threat. So basically, if we die next turn, we lose the game. If we don't die next turn, we win the game? Looks to be the case. Alright, let's play Hinata. Any rune on Jeskai Naturalist that pumps its power requires us to trade and probably means we lose. So unfortunately, I think I just died on most runes here. One of the weaknesses of being on the draw, if you don't find adequate two-mana interaction, and the opponent played this game out in a way that successfully put pressure on us while avoiding Syncopate. The runes do cost 2, which slightly reduces the ability for them to cantrip into them. Now their runes cost 1. Rune of Sustenance. Okay, that's not a rune that actually pumps Jeskai Naturalist, though. I can afford to take 7. They don't have red for Rune of Speed. Okay, okay. That is survivable. So now I've got some choices. I can kill the 2 Jeskai Naturalists, tap down the Lair of the Hydra, and the large Kami. Hold up Syncopate for 2. Safekeeping doesn't technically kill me, but it's pretty close. I think I need to do that rather than Windfall, for sure. No attacks. Stop on the upkeep. Damage, damage. Tap, tap. Oh, no, I only get to hold up Syncopate for 1. I think I still have to be okay with that. If I had a blue-white land, I could leave up Syncopate or the ability to draw into a Fateful Absence. No, that doesn't actually accomplish anything because the large Kami would be hexproof anyway. Okay, Wandering Emperor is a stellar draw, especially because we just tapped down the Kami of Transience. That's excellent. Okay, hopefully there is no land, and then a Showdown of the Scalds. Then I get to Syncopate it for 1, counter the card draw, opponent's entire turn gets spent on that. Land, but it's a tap land. Okay. That means they don't have Showdown, otherwise they wouldn't have played the land, though. Jeskai Naturalist that I can't do anything about, but it doesn't pump the Kami enough for it to actually do anything. Okay, we have the other white source, so I just get to sorcery speed that. I just want this large Kami gone as much as possible. I think it's worth holding up Syncopate for 2 here. Syncopate for 2 can't counter anything meaningful anyway. I think I'm supposed to hold up Syncopate for 2 because it plays around Lair of the Hydra activation plus other spells, specifically a rune that could give it... give Jeskai Naturalist Trample. That's not likely to matter. Okay, Communion of Spirits is fine. This is on red and not green, interestingly enough. Runeforged Champion. Okay. That's not worth syncopating here. They can try to play Rune of Speed on Runeforged Champion, but it costs 1 mana because of Hinata, and then I get to syncopate it. This means the Kami of Transience is going to get up to 5 power. If they attack with that, I have to double block. I can play Mascot Exhibition next turn. I'm probably not supposed to. I lose my Hinata, which gets rid of the discounts on Syncopate. Rune of Sustenance. Sure, this one resolves. If they want to trade Kami with Hinata, they have to cast the other one. I mean, I assume I'm still supposed to counter this. I guess I could have syncopated the first one for 1 and then syncopated again to stop the Kami from being big enough to trade with Hinata. because otherwise I could just trade off with a 4/4. So this is going to make the Kami come back as well into hand. I think we're fine with that. I could choose to play Mascot Exhibition. I'm probably not supposed to. Fateful Absence is a good draw. Okay. How do we want to sequence this? Probably want to uptick Wandering Emperor. We get a 5/5. Opponent has 3 different attackers. Fateful Absence clears the lair of the Hydra. 4/4 blocks something else. Yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to play anything at sorcery speed. I could Mascot Exhibition here. I don't think I'm supposed to do that compared to holding up Syncopate, especially not now that I have Fateful Absence. I'm gonna need to turn that off after this. Okay, Kami of Transience, sure. Jeskai Naturalist, sure. This means they're now representing the layer of the Hydra. They have a second layer of the Hydra, though. Okay, so now I think we can get rid of Syncopate. So we Windfall first. Fateful Absence is fine. Behold the Multiverse. Scry both to the bottom. Really looking for Opuses more so than anything else. More cards that aren't useful. Not great. Okay, divide by 0. What does that meaningfully do? Loots is what it meaningfully does. Layer of the Hydra has Trample. That's sort of a problem. Kami also has Trample. That's sort of a problem. We have enough mana to play Mascot Exhibition and then hold up Fateful Absence, so that's probably what we're supposed to do at this point. I don't think I need more Wandering Emperor tokens. I think what I'm supposed to do is just make more 5/5s and represent Wandering Emperor being able to downtick later. Runeforged Champion. That is annoying. Okay. Can't interact with it, though. Runes are free. We'll see how many of those they can combo off. If the Rune of Might goes on a creature, I Fatefully Absent that creature in response so that they don't draw a card. If it goes on the layer of the Hydra, I'm sad. Yeah, okay. It is worth denying my opponent a cantrip to use this here. They do get to cantrip off the Fateful Absence, but that costs a lot more mana. And now if the Kami dies, it doesn't come back. Or they could put a rune on it so it does come back. Okay. More Fatefully Absent is totally fine. Let's go ahead and at this point, I think put as much power on the board as we're capable of doing. We have enough white sources, so we can just play a land drop and pass the turn. Opponent having not found any Showdown of the Skalds is decent for us, although amusingly, we are also at a point in the game where, had they found Showdown of the Skalds at many earlier turns, it would have been very bad for them. So I suppose in that sense it's almost unlucky. On the Jeskai Naturalist, I think I'm willing to divide by 0 that. Denying opponent card draw sounds good. Let's get the Teachings on the off chance we ever do actually get a use for that. Showdown of the Skalds. I don't have divide by 0 for that. Okay. Inconvenient.
Announcement
not
received.
Out of range of something we can handle. 4 lands. Okay. I'll take it. They can't cycle Botelho with that. Okay, more lands. It's kind of an interesting situation of both decks not drawing particularly well here. Huh.
Strike fast and strike hard.
I feel like at this point I'm pretty incentivized not to use the Fateful Absences to fizzle card draw because I'm going to need them for creatures. Generous Visitor puts more counters on things, sure. Opponent might get baited into a swing here that doesn't actually play around Fateful Absence. Yes, that is what happens. Cool. Do you swing with everything, opponent? No. Okay. Then what I feel incentivized to do. Double block the layer. Fatefully absent the Kami. Could have chump blocked that Kami in a way that gave me Wandering Emperor as a down tick on it, but I don't think that was worthwhile. Okay, we do not mind Hinata. Willing to play down lands here because it makes it harder for our opponent to not make Teachings of the Archaic live. More lands, more Kami, but Kami is tiny. More lands. Do I attack with the Vigilant 4/4 First Striker?
Show them how we greet our
I believe probably I do. Okay. Decision appears to have been correct. Getting a lot of just random incidental Wandering Emperor value over the course of this game. More Hinatas, huh? Okay. That's actually kind of annoying because it's stuck in hand for the purpose of Teachings of the Archaics. I think that just leaves us with Wandering Emperor, down, tick, and pass.
guards to me.
We'd eventually draw a Windfall to discard this Hinata sooner or later. Still can't really attack into that layer of the Hydra. I don't want to have to use Fateful Absence if I don't have to. Circle of Confinement removes my 5/5 token. Yeah, it's inconvenient. Certainly not the end of the world. Removes the one that doesn't have Vigilance. Huh, okay. Alright, Behold the Multiverse at sorcery speed seems completely appealing. Getting to scry 2 lands to the bottom also sounds completely appealing. Magma Opus sounds delightful. Unexpected Conversion, getting rid of Teachings of the Archaic sounds delightful. More Magma Opuses also sounds delightful. Okay, now we have one. We're going to stop in their upkeep. We're going to play one Magma Opus, killing these two, tapping these two. Make our opponent's mana life slightly more annoying. Perfect, we get to Silundi Vision, okay. That was a weird period of a very long sequence of turns where neither of us drew relevant cards and just had to sit around doing nothing. But it seems to have at last come to an end. Silundi Vision looking for Galvanic. There's Galvanic. Player land drop. Uptick the Samurai. Go to combat. Swing, 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 swing. Don't want to attack everything else into the 2-3. Up. I guess I actually could have wanted sorcery speed here. Alright. Not the point of the game where, like, my decisions matter very much. Although, slightly indicative of a flaw in the process. We're just gonna remove most of their board, tap down most of their mana, and by most of their board, I mean we're gonna tap down, we're gonna kill their entire board by the end of this turn. We're gonna have 3 additional 4/4s, we're gonna draw 6 cards, which is not decking us. And if we tap down 6 of their mana, they have still a lot of mana to work with, but we're also probably gonna have counter spells by then. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think there was a way out of that either, opponent. Okay. So, for this matchup, we get to board in Abrades, Annuls, Divine Purges, and we get to board out Galvanic, a Fateful Absence, 2 Unexpected Conversions, a Windfall, and... Right, and the addition of Divine Purges made me uncertain what else I was supposed to board out here. What was it? Also, what are they bringing in? Guardian of Faith. That's the flash creature. 2 Borrowed Time, potentially 2 Hollowed Haunting, 1 Tamios Safekeeping. Okay. I'm going to assume that means I'm probably supposed to board down on Windfalls. Borrowed Time can be weird in this matchup because it can blink Hinata in response to Galvanic, which potentially leaves me in the position of preferring 1 Galvanic, 3 Windfall to 2 Galvanic, 2 Windfall. Probably not, though. On the draw, am I supposed to have the 4th Fateful Absence? It's amusingly not terrible against Guardian of Faith, specifically because getting the creature phased out in response to Fateful Absence doesn't hurt as much if you're denying them the clue token, but it's not good, per se. I'm going to cut the Galvanic for the Fateful Absence on the draw, and probably reverse that on the play. Okay, this hand's pretty good. 2-drop interaction into 3-drop interaction, into Hinata, into Opus. Okay, actually, wait, this hand's, like, pretty decent. Full stop. Yeah, have to play this first, because I want to play Fateful Absence on 2. So that land sequencing is correct. Kami of Transience is fine. I should probably just Fatefully Absent it. There's no other target I would Fatefully Absent instead. And getting blown out by Protection Spell does not seem like what I ought to be doing. We hit our 4th land, which is stellar. Opponent looks to be missing their 3rd, which is absolutely excellent for us. Drew the Wandering Emperor, which is another excellent card in this matchup. Opponent lacks red mana, it would seem. Okay, Unexpected Windfall's pretty interesting. I could slam Hinata here. My opponent could play Guardian of Faith, which doesn't really matter. And then on their turn, Borrowed Time my Hinata, which is kind of inconvenient. I think in all likelihood I'm actually going to Windfall. The trouble is I don't really know what I'm discarding yet. Windfall sets up Hinata into Opus in a way they can't respond to, and they've given me the time necessary to do that, so I think that's what I'm supposed to do. Odds are I'm probably going to discard Wandering Emperor now that I didn't play this white source. There's the Guardian of Faith, which is kind of what we were expecting. Huh, this has Vigilance. Neat. Although I suppose Wandering Emperor can make a 2/2 to block it. Showdown of the Scalds. Yeah, I'm probably just going to have to be okay with that. I do think this, unfortunately, means we're getting rid of Wandering Emperor. Want an untap land, though? Preferably? No? Okay. Very well. Set an upkeep stop, play Hinata. So lack of an untapped land means that I have to use both of my treasures. Then we are going to get rid of both white sources. They can play a white source and then play Runeforge Champion, but that then eats up their mana for the turn. We still have Hinata in play. And it also means that they can't play the cost reducer mana dork into borrowed time on Hinata. One of the reasons we had to keep the Divide by Zero over the Wandering Emperor was so that we could bounce borrowed time to put Hinata in play. So they can play the Runeforge Champion here, but they can't play the Rune of Speed because it costs 2 because of the Hinata tax. Guardian of Faith gets pumped, but can still be blocked by the 4/4. Which we are just willing to do. Set an upkeep stop. Play Forsaken Crossroads on white. Do I need to untap this? No. No, because I can still kill the Runeforge Champion. Don't really need a tap land. Comfortable going to combat. We basically have the game won at this point. So we're going to go with 1, 2, 1. Submit 3. Tap the green sources this time. No, actually, I've got a better idea. The first one is only going to do 1 damage. And tap the green sources. Then we're going to move to the draw step after the floating green mana is gone. And we're going to kill the Runeforge Champ. Oh, they just didn't float the green mana. Okay, well, that works too. Then we kill the Runeforge Champion. And we take out the red mana. And the opponent does not have the ability to protect the Runeforge Champion. Okay, should be able to win from here. Especially considering we have all the Storm Giants, so like even if they kill Hinata, we still have lethal anyway. Alrighty. That is a clean game against runes. That's how that's supposed to go. Sometimes Divine Purge does something too, but for the most part, that's how that's supposed to go.